staying in Asia. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has met Chinese President Xi Jinping and asked Beijing to play a constructive role in solving global crises. Earlier, he also had 5.5 hours of talks with his counterpart Wang Yi. My colleague Ollie Barrett is in London. He gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, a very crucial trip here by Biden to stabilize U.S.-China ties.
A crucial indeed trip from Antony Blinken, Tanvi, as you say, and those talks with Xi Jinping in Beijing came after meetings with the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and the Public Security Minister Wang Zhaohong as well. The US Secretary of State says he raised concerns about China's support for Russia's military in its conflict with Ukraine. The two sides also discussed Taiwan and tensions in the South China Sea.
In today's meetings, I discussed the PRC's dangerous actions in the South China Sea, including against routine Philippine maintenance operations and maritime operations near the Second Thomas Shoal. Freedom of navigation and commerce in these waterways is not only critical to the Philippines, but to the U.S. and to every other nation in the Indo-Pacific, and indeed around the world. That's why so many nations have expressed concern about the PRC's maritime maneuvers. I made clear that while the U.S. will continue to work to de-escalate tensions, our defense commitments to the Philippines remain ironclad.
He also urged China to discourage Iran and others from escalating the conflict in the Middle East.
China can play a constructive role. I encourage China to use its influence to discourage Iran and its proxies from expanding the conflict in the Middle East, and to press Pyongyang to end its dangerous behavior and engage in dialogue.
DD India's Laura Westbrook joins us live now from Hong Kong. Laura, what do we make of the language being used by both sides about Blinken's talks in China?
Well, we just heard from Antony Blinken, and both sides really were keen to stress that there were areas of cooperation. For example, in making more exchanges of students between the two sides going to the United States and China, as well as the issue of counter-narcotics in stopping fentanyl and its precursors from reaching the United States. But Antony Blinken had some strong words when it came to Ukraine. He said that Chinese components were being used in Russia's war there, and that this was an issue that not only threatened Ukrainian security, but threatened European security as well. And he did not rule out the United States taking measures if this did not stop. On the Chinese side, the issue of overcapacity was something that was raised with the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson saying that this was a false narrative and calling for the United States to lift its sanctions and tariffs on Chinese companies. He also called on the US to stop arming Taiwan. Hours before Antony Blinken landed in China, we saw this aid package which saw billions of US dollars being sent to Taiwan. Now, the United States has been keen to stress that having face-to-face dialogue and maintaining open channels of communication is vital. But we have seen there are still stark differences when it comes to issues like the South China Sea, Taiwan, Ukraine, as well as the issue of overcapacity, not to mention trade and TikTok. An expert I spoke to said that this really was about each side raising the difference in these face-to-face talks, with Taiwan being the major issue for Beijing. He said with next month we will see William Lai being inaugurated in Taiwan, and that there will be a lot of diplomacy behind the scenes around that as well.
Laura, thank you.